looks like you're doing a lot. You're doing social media as well as creating the content, taking the photos, and even doing some video work as well.
Yeah, copy editing, video editing, all the content. It's not something I thought I would be doing. I'm excited to see kind of where I want to take that. Definitely want to go into publication, whether it be writing or editing. Getting back to literature is kind of my goal. In elementary school, I always won those reading contests, read the most pages, and I've just always been a reader. I loved reading. I loved literature. I thought, well, why don't I get my degree in English and then journalism? Coming to Augie was a little bit overwhelming at the amount of freedom that I had.
That's sort of not what I was expecting.
In high school, they were really strict. Whenever we did period changes, they'd have teachers, standing at the door, cross-armed. Like, we couldn't do anything. We couldn't have earbuds. We couldn't have hats. You're not allowed your phone. I know I'm local, and it was nice knowing things happening in town, but also it's a different world. What am I doing here?
The last semester of our senior year, we took a photography class together. What are we going to do after we graduate? You had a plan to go down to Texas.
Yeah, I was going to concerts. I was getting food. We toured an apartment that we really liked. We're going through that, figuring out the paperwork, and then that's when we got the email. And I had looked at my friend and I said, hey, did you see this? We thought, well, maybe we should drive back. Started driving back and went through a blizzard in Nebraska and got home. And my friend sent me a message and said, did you see that Austin shut down? Within a couple of days of us leaving, Austin completely shut down. Another email had gone out saying, hey, we're not going back to campus. Well, crap. Are we even going to have a graduation? Just kind of crumbled from there.
Welcome back to college. This is a podcast where we share the incredible transformations of international students who study abroad at college in the US, and we are continuing our streak of American guests. After all, you can't have international students studying in America without America, and it gives us a great opportunity to learn about the culture we dove into. Today's guest is a Sioux Falls local. We hear all about the local South Dakota culture, growing up a theatre kid in high school, coming to college on a bet, the pursuit of a career in publication, why living on campus is so unique, the elaborate plan to move to Austin, working as a freelance photographer doing senior pics and weddings, as well as creating music videos for Sioux Falls artists, the sporadic skill set of a content coordinator, and everything in between. It wasn't until later on in our college journeys where we met each other in the photography lab. I find it remarkable that we both now work deeply in the creative space, especially since that wasn't exactly the direction that either of us intended going into college. I'm proud of the growth that this person has had since meeting them in the photo studio, both as a creative and as a person. She has a strong creative spirit, and it grows brighter every time I see her. Let's go back to college with Katelyn. Katelyn Clement, welcome
Hello.
back to college.
It's been a while.
It has. Well, you suggested that maybe we should record in the library today.
Yeah,
So here we are, the Mickelson Library.
I know. I don't think I've been here since, first semester of senior year. Before the big bad
Before
thing.
stuff happened.
Yeah.
Well, so why is it that you chose this place? Because I gave you the option, hey, I'm in pretty good with campus safety at this point, recording all over the campus.
Right.
But I just sort of asked you, well, where would you like to film and record? Where's a special place for you on campus? And you chose here.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just always a quiet place for me to focus on my work or, read when I wanted to, and still be around people. I mean, I studied, in my dorm or my apartment at my own table. But it's like, oh, you're just alone sitting there. So the library was really a place for me to just study in the quiet, but still be around people and enjoy, the community and still have that time to think to yourself.
Yeah. Well, we're lucky that it's closed today, so we have the whole place to ourselves and we can make as much noise as we want.
Start wandering.
Which is pretty unique. And it is a public library too, so it's not owned by the campus per se, so I had to get extra special permission from the library director to make sure we could get in here.
Sure. But I actually don't think I knew that.
Yeah, no, it's something that I forgot about, but it is a public library, so anyone can come and, sit down, read a book, do whatever.
Right.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you because I think we sort of hit it off in the photo studio. That's sort of where we kind of met. I'd seen you around a few previous years, but it was sort of during that time when we both sort of took photography. I think that was actually my senior year.
I think so too. Trying to think, because I think I remember when we met, you were doing a project for photography in the studio, and then I was editing
late night on the computer.
I can't remember who was there first, but it was just the two of us. And we got to talking and you said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I am making a label for my mom because she just needed a shipping label and couldn't do it on her own computer and couldn't figure it out." And I said, "Yeah, I'm on campus. I guess I can make use of the studio at 7:00 at night or something like that."
I feel like it was much later than that.
It probably was. But yeah, I was just doing that. And I remember you looked at my computer and you said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Making a shipping label." And you said, "Is that for a project?" I remember that. And I said, "No, my mom needs it."
I was still a little beginner at that point. I'd only been doing the photography class for a couple of weeks, I think, by that point.
Oh, yeah. I got into photography more so like my freshman year of college. Traveling with, doing road trips with family. We'd have those little throwaway cameras. And we always use those, and I enjoyed doing that. And then by the time I got to college, I thought, I guess that's a thing I can do. That's an option. So that's probably around the time I started getting into photography and content.
And that's actually what you're doing for work right now.
Yeah, I am a content coordinator at a home decor company. It's wholesale. So I take photos that end up on Target, Walmart, Wayfair, Amazon, things like that. So, which is pretty cool. I'll hop on Amazon and, with being through work and the search options, my stuff pops up and I'm like, no breaks.
And from what you just described before we started recording, it seems like you're doing a lot. You're doing social media as well as creating the content, taking the photos, and even doing some video work as well. Yeah,
and copy editing, video editing, all the content. So that's essentially what I'm doing for decor products.
And you're enjoying it?
Yeah, it's fun. It's not something I thought I would be doing. There's, so many different ideas that I thought I'd be doing when I initially came into school and started my studies. So I'm excited to see kind of where I want to take that. I think it's not something I'll stick with forever. I definitely want to go into publication, whether it be writing or editing. Like getting back to literature is kind of my goal. It's just a matter of figuring that out.
And so that's what you came into college wanting to do? Going down the literature writing sort of route?
Yeah, essentially. So my degree is in journalism and English, and I kind of wasn't sure if I wanted to do, creative writing or go into news. I ended up going into news for about 2 years, and then I thought, well, I'm kind of burnt out from everything going on and having to, report all this depressing stuff.
Well, yeah, America's been through a lot since I've been here. I feel like I got out, well, obviously as the pandemic was hitting, but then there was all the civil rights and tons of arguments like Black Lives Matter, all that sort of thing was going on heavily during that time.
Yeah, and so when I was working at the radio station, I was doing, news broadcast and then sports broadcasts on the side. And that was my junior year. I started there on an internship. I was able to talk to the guy. He knew my mom, and my mom said, "Oh, hey, I know this guy. He works at the radio station. You can maybe do an internship because it's required for us to, have internships." And so I talked to him, got this internship. It was the first internship they ever had. So I laid the groundwork for that, did all of that, and then got a job there. And then senior year was when COVID hit our last semester, and that's when, things really started happening. And I was reading, the death numbers, all of that. And then later on, the Capitol riots happened, and I was just kind of burnt out. I was covering that for about 4 days straight, and that's when I realized I probably don't want to go into serious news.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's more than fair enough.
Right.
And it seems like along your journey, you have been sort of pushed into different roles that maybe you didn't consider you'd be doing at the start, but I think it's all part of the journey, and seems like you're still in the right direction of where you want to go as well.
Yeah. Just kind of writing it out, seeing what's going on.
And so you're a Sioux Falls local.
I am born and raised.
So which high school did you go to then?
I went to Roosevelt.
Roosevelt?
Yeah. A lot of my friends are from Lincoln, though, so.
I think yesterday yesterday was Christmas Day, so we were doing a bit of driving around, and I think I went past, we started at Washington, went past Lincoln, went past Roosevelt, so I've what's the fourth one?
Oh, O'Gorman, but then Jefferson was just built last year, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So that wasn't around when I was in high school, which is weird.
So now at least I've got a better understanding of where they are in the city. So Roosevelt is way out that way.
Yeah, I actually currently don't live too far from there. So I kind of wandered my way back west, stuck it out. And so not a lot of people know this. Roosevelt and Washington, they use the same blueprints. So it's exactly the same on the inside and outside.
So it's the same buildings.
Yeah, except Washington has like blue tiles, and then Roosevelt has like maroon ones.
Really?
And it's like
people can't pick that.
No, it's.
I mean, I guess you either go to one or the other. You don't do a lot of back and forth.
Right, but well, I was in band all throughout school, and we had to go to Washington, and it was like being like a weird multiverse situation. We're kind of like, well, we know where everything is, but this is weird. Things don't look right. That's
so strange.
I know.
Yeah. And then so how would you describe your time at Roosevelt?
Let me think about this. Well, so I was the band and theater kid, so I mainly stuck it out in C Wing, the art department. And it was fine. You just went to classes. I played the trumpet, so I was in band, and then I had to do brass choir my senior year of high school. And then with theater, I did over 20 shows, and I did tech, and then I acted a little bit. And that's mainly where, my interests was doing that. And then we stayed at the school late until like midnight doing teardowns.
So you were very heavy into the whole theater department.
Yeah. And then when I got to college, I thought, well, I don't really want to do band anymore. And I mean, I feel like if you were to do a type of, extracurricular like that, you'd have to have, a major in it or a minor. And I didn't have the time for that. So I thought, well, I might as well just do my own thing and figure things out from there.
So what instrument was your favorite then? What did you play the most?
Well, I played the trumpet.
The trumpet?
That's the only one I learned.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you count, 5th grade recorder, I can do the recorder, but.
Oh, God.
But yeah.
How long did you play trumpet for?
From the 5th grade, and then I ended up traveling to Europe for it with the Midwest Ambassadors after freshman year of college.
Who are they? Are they a local group?
It was like a program for high schools in the Midwest. Bands would pick out who they wanted to go, like some of their best, and then that whole group, I think it was about 50 kids, 40 kids, 50 kids, would tour across Europe and play music.
Oh, wow. What an experience.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then that was in 2017. And then our group ended up in the South Dakota Music Hall of Fame for like best performance, or I'd have to double check, but something like that. So it was a lot of fun and made a lot of friends. I'm still friends with some of them. So.
Right. So big into band, even in the theater department too.
Yeah.
Well, what about other aspects of high school?
I mean, that was pretty much it. Studying, doing extracurriculars, applying to colleges.
Pretty studious?
Yeah, I guess so.
You always struck me as someone that maybe not one of those super intellects that would spend, I don't know, 16 hours a day at the library, but you always took your work seriously and you seem to be very switched on as well.
Yeah, I think I'm always taking, everything that I do and my work, everything seriously, because it's a reflection on not only yourself, but what you can end up doing for yourself in the future. So I've always taken, my studies seriously. Fun on the weekends and weeknights, but not crazy. So
Not too crazy.
Not too crazy.
So what were you looking at for a college and what was some of your criteria?
I guess when I was initially applying to colleges, I wanted some place that would give me one of the best educations. I initially applied and got into Concordia out in Moorhead. I sent them my down payment, and then I applied to Augie, and they, sent me my acceptance, and then I applied to a few state scholarships and Augie scholarships, and I got them. And I thought, well, I'm just really drawn to Concordia. I want to go to Concordia. I sent them my payment, and my friend who was going here at the time, I was kind of struggling because I said, well, if I go to Concordia and graduate, I'm going to end up with a ton of student debt. If I go to Augie, I'll graduate with little to no debt. And he said, well, boys state is the basketball team at Augie is going to state. If they win, why don't you just go to Augie? Maybe that's a sign. And I said no, and kind of got to thinking about it. And I thought, maybe there's, I'm going to get a good education no matter where I go. And so I said, all right. So I watched the game, and they won that game. And so that night I pulled my payment from Concordia and sent it to Augustana. So initially I came here kind of on a bet, but it all worked out.
So which basketball game was that?
I have no idea.
No, you don't know.
I have no clue. I think it was the one before they were supposed to go to state, or it was some huge game. I'd have to ask my friend.
Basketball.
Yeah, it was Augie men's basketball. I have no idea which game it was, but I know it was a big deal, and I figured, well, if they win, I'll take my friend up on that offer.
Well, it's funny because I feel like that's almost how I was the deciding factor for me to come here was the basketball team.
Yeah, because you're going through recruiters, right?
Yeah. And so I saw that they won the national championship. So it's like, well, Division II school, awesome basketball program, clearly, because they've just won the national championship.
Maybe
so
it was
that's where
that
I'm
game. Maybe it was that one, the national championship.
It might have been the deciding factor for a lot of people then.
Yeah, and then I only went to one basketball game in my time here, so probably should have gone to more if they were the ones who got me here.
That was the reason why you came. And so what did you see yourself doing at college? You wanted to pursue writing?
Yeah, I've always been, in elementary school, I always won those reading contests, read the most pages, and I've just always been a reader. I loved reading. I loved literature, writing, and so I thought, well, why don't I get my degree in English and then journalism, because they go hand in hand, and that's what I ended up doing. And then I thought, well, maybe publication, maybe, this or that, and yeah.
Right, okay. So when you first came to Augie, what was that experience like for you? Because being a local, I'm sure you must have known a few people who were also going here.
Yes and no. The group of people that I kind of, essentially grew up with, going to elementary school, middle school, high school with, they were all friends, and I wasn't really part of that friend group. So coming to Augie, it was like I didn't really, know a whole lot of people or have a lot of friends. I knew one or two individuals who I had gone to high school with who had come here, but they were a couple years older. So coming to Augie was a little bit overwhelming. I think the most stressful thing was the amount of freedom that I had. You could, if you wanted to leave the house, you'd say, hey, can I go do this with friends? Can I do that? Or in high school, they were really strict in high school. Like whenever we did period changes, they'd have teachers, standing at the door, like cross-armed. Like we couldn't do anything. We couldn't have earbuds. We couldn't have hats,
So
whereas
just one class to the other, that's all you can do.
Yeah, shuffle along in between like the groups of people. You had to have a bathroom pass that was like a ruler, or like they would just like clip things to the largest, most like one teacher had a clipboard as their bathroom pass. So it was a lot of like going to classes here and, oh, I don't need to ask to use the restroom like an adult. Like I don't need to tell everyone where I'm going at all times.
That seems really strict, and that's sort of not what I was expecting from maybe a local high school here.
Right. Well, I know some people probably had different, like I probably had a little bit more freedom because I could wander the halls at night with the, the theater kids, and after teardown. But yeah, it's kind of crazy how strict high schools can be. You're not allowed your phone. I didn't have a phone until freshman year of college, so that wasn't an issue for me. But yeah, it's kind of strict. And then coming here, it's like, holy cow, you get all this freedom. You can do what you want. You don't have to, ask for every little thing. You can just go and do it.
And even the lectures themselves, that's only just a small part of all the volume of work we have to do. It's
right.
It's kind of, okay, we get to learn the stuff in the classroom, but we have to do a lot of our own study to be able to learn what we're actually learning as well. So there's a lot more independence.
Yeah, I think that was probably the biggest, culture shock is, all this freedom. I mean, I know I'm local, and it was nice knowing where, things were and things happening in town, and it was, familiar, but also it's like being on a whole new, place.
Well, I think once you're on campus, it is its own little
kind of
city.
Secluded, yeah. It's in its own little thing.
And so you lived on campus your first year?
I lived on campus my first 2 years. And then junior year, I kind of decided, well, the dorm life is a little too hectic for me. And so I got an apartment actually not far from here, over on 17th near USF. And that was fine. And I lived there until COVID was, 2020, so the summer of 2020, and then moved back to West Side in an apartment.
Yeah, terrific.
Yeah.
So which did you prefer? Did you prefer living in the dorms or just off campus?
Sometimes I missed living in the dorms because you still had that sense of community. You had a bunch of people you knew, and you could just, walk to class. It would take a few minutes, or someone saying, oh, hey, I'm studying here. Do you want to come over? Yeah, I'll meet you there. Whereas in the apartment, it was a bit more, you had even more time to yourself, even more like individuality, and kind of like more of a sense of being an adult. Whereas here it was, oh, I'm still a student. Whereas, off campus, it's like, oh, I can go out and do whatever, I guess.
Because they are two quite different experiences.
Yeah, like I'm glad I had both of them, but I did miss aspects to living on campus.
Yeah. Well, I absolutely loved living on campus. I thought it was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And just living on a floor with all your friends, especially the last couple of years, because you can choose your rooms.
Right.
So we were all sort of next to each other, so we'd just see each other when we're brushing our teeth or going for a shower. And it was just another great way that we could spend time with one another.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me it was freshman year. I had a couple of friends who had gone to Lincoln High School that came over here, and just the whole floor would, have things going on, and so I just hung out with them. So I do miss that. When I lived in Gran, my sophomore year, I had like a single bedroom, one of those options, and I was fine, but I didn't know as many people. None of my friends were really on the floor, and so I kind of thought, well, maybe I should try apartment living in town and see how that goes.
Yeah. Now I noticed that notebook over there. That's very much the journalistic side of you coming out.
I want to be prepared.
You've taken lots of good notes. So is there anything from there that you wanted to share?
Well, it's like this part's mostly a timeline of what I have been doing. I didn't want to get lost or anything. But I guess one of the main things is that last, semester of senior year here, we ended up going online. And I kind of wanted to talk about what I was doing when we found out that was going to happen. Sure.
Well, because we took the last semester of our senior year, we took a photography class together.
We did, yeah.
And so we were talking, photo stuff, but also, well, what are we going to do after we graduate? And you
Right.
had a plan to go down to Texas.
I did. So, actually, spring break of our senior year, I was down in Austin. I had gone with a friend of mine, and we had both planned to move down there, get jobs, and kind of, enjoy city life. We figured there was more opportunity down there for us, rather than Sioux Falls. But we got down there. We had been touring apartments. I was applying for jobs. We were staying with another friend of ours. We were there for pretty much the entirety of spring break. And then within the last day when we were supposed to go back, we got that email that, oh, spring break is going to be extended another week.
Which was like the greatest news ever at the time because
Right.
we thought it was so epic.
Right. And I had talked to my friends and I said, hey, would you mind if we stayed a couple extra days? And should we stay a few more days? It'll give us more time to really understand it down here and figure out what we're going to do. Like we had gone to a concert the day before and I thought, oh, I could go to concerts here all the time. And then not long after that school email went out, we got a notification that Austin had received their first 2 or 3 COVID. What word am I looking for? They had received their first 2 or 3
Like outbreak sort of cases.
Cases.
That's the one.
That's
How
the
do we
word.
not? That's like the most basic word related to that. But anyway.
But yeah, they got their first 2 COVID cases. And I had looked at my friend and I said, hey, did you see this? And we thought, well, maybe we should drive back. And we decided ultimately to come back to Sioux Falls the next day. And so started driving back and went through a blizzard in Nebraska and then got home. And my friend sent me a message and said, did you see that Austin shut down? What? And I look, and within a couple of days of us leaving, Austin completely shut down. COVID had hit. And that's when another email had gone out saying, hey, we're not going back to campus. And I thought, well, crap.
Actually, it's really interesting that you share that because I didn't know how it happened. I knew that you had big aspirations to go down to Austin, but that you actually were there and
I was
checking
there.
it out.
Yeah, I was, going to concerts. I was getting food. We went, we were exploring and apartment hunting. We toured an apartment that we really liked, and we talked to the lady showing us, and we said, well, we'd love to do a down payment, and we're going through that, figuring out the paperwork, and then that's when we got the email and just kind of crumbled from there. And then we ended up online, and I was trying to, I think one of my main concerns was, how am I going to do my final 2 photo, because I took photo 5 and 6 at the same time.
Oh, that's right.
In one semester.
'Cause you're an absolute photo whiz.
Yeah, and I was like, how am I going to get these photo projects done? And then I thought, wait, are we even going to have a graduation? And we ended up ultimately not having one, like not having a traditional one.
You guys had to do a drive-through kind of graduation.
We did a drive-through. I can't remember exactly when after the semester had wrapped up, but they had set it up in the Elman lot. And all of the professors were there and other students, and they kind of had like a little weaving maze going through, and we went through, and then Stephanie, her Seth Sandlin, was at the end, and she said, congratulations, and she like handed I think it was the degree through the window, like a side of fries. Here you go. Your ultimate
Americans
achievement.
love their drive-through,
yeah.
but I think that just takes it to extreme.
And I think she gave us a cupcake. I can't remember.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, and then I
what
thought,
an interesting experience.
Yeah, and for me it was like, all right, well it was the best that we could do in this situation, and I thought, but it doesn't feel like closure. And then 2021, that's when we ended up having
So 1 year later.
1 year later, they had the class of 2021 going that same day. And so they invited the class of 2020 out onto the field, and whoever was here, because I know you were back in Australia.
I was long gone by that stage.
And then anyone who had gone on to get their masters weren't in town anymore. So there was only maybe 50 of us, maybe a little bit more. But we all got to walk across the stage. We had our masks on, and I remember that day I was speeding. Like, I was going to meet my parents here, and I was at my apartment over on West Side, and I was just hauling down 12th Street trying to get here on time. And then I look in front of me, and two girls I had they're also journalism and English students. They were in front of me, and they were driving faster than I was. And I thought, oh, I'm not too late. It's fine. People are driving this fast to get there.
So you almost missed your walk.
No, well, I thought I was, but they started a little bit later. So by the time I got there, I thought, oh, I only have a minute left. The two girls and I parked next to each other at Solberg, and then we were like rushing to get our gowns and hats on and look presentable, and running across the street, and everyone was still in line, and we probably stood there another 10, 15 minutes, and I thought, well, I could have driven a little bit slower to get here, but ultimately it was more closure than.
So you feel like that was enough for closure for you after the drive-through, actually doing it in person, even though it wasn't really with your main class, it was still other classmates that came back that following year to walk with you. Right.
And I mean, for me, it was because my friends who had stuck around Sioux Falls all went. Like, there were still some, familiar faces, and I walked across the stage and got photos and, got to take pictures with my family, and it was enough closure for me. It may not have been for some people, but at least for me, it was.
I guess there's only so much you can do in circumstances like that.
Exactly, yeah. And then you got your walk.
I walked last week. I had my own personal graduation ceremony, which was honestly, I feel so grateful and so blessed for Augie to be able to put that on just for me.
Right. It was so great of campus to do that for you.
And we had the president, Stephanie, was there.
Yeah, they were in their full garb too.
Yeah. It was honestly such a surreal experience, and all happened very quick. It was a last minute thing just to try and make it work. But we had 30 people there.
Yeah, it was a really good turnout.
And you came as well. So thank you for attending my graduation.
I came over my lunch break.
Yeah, because we just wanted to fit it in during the day so people could actually come.
Right.
And there's lots of staff who, some of them I didn't actually know, but a few of friends came, and I think it was very special. And I didn't ask for that. I just mentioned to Don, like, hey, I just told him the whole story of how I went back home all of a sudden. He's like, you know what? We need to throw on a graduation for you. So shout out for Don Granoga, because you very much made that happen.
Yeah, and you ended up on the local news.
Yeah, which again, it just keeps stacking, more and more crazy, spiraling out of control. But it's I think it really shows how great Augie is and how much it does care for its students. Yeah. Because no one had to do that, but I think everyone came together and they loved it, that they were able to, give me that closure to my time here.
Right.
Because obviously it wasn't, I don't feel any closure because I've come all the way back, and now I'm doing a whole bunch of podcast episodes with people to just share what my time was like. But I think after that ceremony, I think now it is a really good closure for me. And I'll post that whole, because I captured it all with all these cameras that I've got. So I'll post that as maybe one of the last episodes of this season, or if not, of the whole Back to College series as well.
Right. Well, yeah, congrats on all of that. And then I'd never heard of that tradition before where exchange students would get the South Dakota license plate.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of that.
Yeah, that's just the thing that the IPO does.
Sure.
And because I had to leave so quick, I didn't get a chance to grab one. But
right.
I was also super excited to grab one of those as well. Which is, I guess it's just a nice little touch and another way to commemorate and a memory of your time here.
Right.
In the Midwest as well, in South Dakota.
So I kind of want to back up a little bit. Tell me about your last semester, because I only know bits and pieces, because you and I were in photo class together, and then we got that mass email that we weren't coming back to campus.
Because we didn't actually see each other again, did we?
No, I think the last time we saw each other was...
Because I was just thinking about that before.
Right before, yeah.
It is really strange to be sitting across from you now, just not really even saying goodbye. I was just...
I know. The last thing we did was, what was it? Prepare for spring break and edit a photo project or something in Anna's class. But yeah, tell me what you were doing, because I know you had to go back and then you quarantined in a hotel for 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. I think we had to spend 14 days in an Airbnb.
Sure.
because Max came home with me at the same time. We were actually on one of the last flights out of Dallas as well.
Oh, sure.
So there weren't actually that many flights going back to Australia. So lucky we left when we did, which was very abrupt. But if we hadn't have left, there was a good chance we would have just been stuck here, not being able to get home.
Yeah, things shut down so quickly.
Yeah.
Like Austin shut down within a couple days of their first few cases, and it was just crazy.
And I remember as we were in the airport at Dallas, we got sort of delayed, so we had to stay overnight in the airport. But even the difference between that night before we actually went to bed, we were just watching the case numbers. We checked it the next day, and it was already just out of control.
Yeah.
We saw it just going through New York, and that's when we knew we were making the right decision to get out of here.
Right, and that was a really hard decision too for my friend and I, because at that point it was, oh, what is COVID? We only have a couple cases. Is it like a cold? It was like that whole, is it a cold? Is it the flu? Is it,
I think that's when it very much hit me as like, this thing is serious.
Yeah, when I would say it hit me when campus said, we're extending spring break. And I thought, okay, like that's not a good sign, but also more spring break? I don't know. And then when I talked to my friend, we said we should probably just leave. And that ended up being the best decision, was leaving. Austin shut down.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And we were just in that Airbnb it was 2 weeks, but we actually stayed there. We got a good deal with the host because since no one else was going to book the thing, we just stayed longer. And Mum was paying that just so we could kind of finish off our college time just doing our online class, and we had a bit more time and space where we could actually
focus,
get that stuff done. Yeah. Because we did finish off that class online, so we would have been sort of communicating through that as well.
Right. The infamous Zoom calls and Teams calls and trying to figure all that out.
Yeah.
That was a time.
And then once I sort of finished, then I just sort of steered into the whole video thing and just started doing some personal projects because there wasn't really much going on, not much work going around. And then I eventually, just after a few months, I decided that's what I want to actually do professionally.
Right.
So it took a bit of time to get some work up and running, but I've been doing freelance work for the past 3.5 years, and it's been really good to just experience a whole variety of different projects.
Yeah, I've been doing some freelance the last couple of years, since, quarantine was lifted and, things are kind of going on the down trail, but not like...
So freelance photo stuff.
Yeah, and then...
So what sort of things have you been doing?
So I guess 2021, it was still, mainly quarantine. I started my content job at that wholesale home decor place, and then just kind of growing that from there. The projects were coming on more. I had a couple weddings that I had friends who were getting married where they had to postpone their weddings because they were supposed to get married in summer of 2020, and that wasn't going to happen.
It's still on backlog now.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of filmmaking friends who do weddings, and they say they're still very busy from just all the carryover work of the weddings that got delayed.
Yeah, I know. So my one friend, I was supposed to be in their wedding, and they were supposed to get married summer of 2020, and then they had booked one of the venues in town, and they said, hey, there's no way we can do our wedding. We have, elderly people in our family, and they wouldn't give back the down payment, and it was about a $3,200 down payment.
Oh my gosh.
And so they ended up getting married spring or summer of 2021, and even then it was like the venue was charging $100 for a box of masks. Like if you wanted masks at your wedding, you couldn't bring your own. You had to pay $100 per box.
That's just taking advantage of the situation.
Yeah. But yeah, so I did a few weddings here and there, senior portraits, and then...
Oh, senior portraits are a big thing here.
Yeah, they're huge. I guess
everyone,
I'm not sure where else.
Everyone gets them done, don't they?
Yeah, I have them done. Everyone does. But...
Well, in America at least, because we do not do that back home in Australia, no.
No, like, professional shots or...
No, like we'll just get a normal school photo, just in our uniform, and then one is, big one with our class, but that's it.
Sure. Yeah, no, here, well, at least when I was in high school, it was a big deal to get those done. And then now it's like, all right, well, let's go outside and like take pictures of you with the scenery, like all this nice stuff.
Well, I go to people's houses and a lot of them are still up on the wall. of all their senior pictures. And you know, some people, if they're really big into basketball, they'll take some shots with a basketball, or others will
with their
just be
extracurriculars
outside in nature, just looking
Right.
really nice.
My mom, she has a shrine for me and my brother on one wall. It's all of our senior portraits. She had the best ones printed off on like this huge thing of canvas and like posted them up on the wall. And it's ridiculous. I look at it, I'm like, Mom, you can take those down. That's when I was 18. Like, she still has them up on the wall.
So senior portraits are a very big thing. So you've done a bit of that work.
I've done a few of those, yeah. And then, you know, engagements, maternity, like just little life events like that. And then this year it was a lot of working with, so I've always been involved in like the local music community, bands, artists, things like that, and going to local concerts. And I have friends who are in bands. My boyfriend's in a band. And so doing photos for them. And then we've done a couple music videos this year, which was a lot of fun. And we're hoping next year, with, you know, everything being more like popular and people going out more, we'll get to do more music videos and really market some of those local bands.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so you just mentioned that you do a little bit of video stuff.
Yeah.
Is it still mainly photo that you enjoy the most?
I guess it's about equal. I really enjoy, you know, capturing moments. And then I also love, you know, putting together a video and just having like you can relive a moment in a video. And I just love doing both of them. It kind of depends on the project for me, but yeah, I like doing them pretty much equally.
And the skill sets, they are somewhat similar, at least to begin with, but
Right.
there is two very different routes that you go down. Like the whole photography has a completely different workflow to the whole video stuff.
Yeah, right. It's a whole different editing process. At least for photos, it's like you have to weed out, you know, oh, they blinked in this one. Oh, the hand looked weird in this one. And sometimes after a project, I have like 2,000 photos because you just have to keep going. Like you have someone who blinks too much, or you have to, you know.
Exactly. And because you can't add in
Right.
photos, but you can take them out.
Right.
If that
And
makes
then-
sense. So you can easily cull it, but you can't reproduce a moment if you didn't actually capture it.
Right. And then just kind of weeding those out. And then you could edit by like batch or location. Like if I were to do senior portraits downtown, it's like, oh, the light was the same here by the railroad tracks, but different here at the falls. So I can just edit that batch real quick, you know, with the same settings, and then go through and just double check to make sure everything is fine. Whereas with videos, it's like, oh, I'm spending 6 hours waiting for all of this to download. Like I have all this B-roll and raw footage. Like why is it taking 6 hours? And then you have to weed through it and figure out, oh, what shot's great? How do I like, you know all of it.
Yeah.
I'm not explaining this. Yeah.
Well, so what is it then that you really do love about photography? Because you took photo 5 and 6 as the one class, but
Yeah.
you took basically 5 photography classes while you're at Augie,
Right.
which most people do one,
Mm-hmm.
and even I took 2, which was a little bit more unique. But what is it that actually draws you to photography? Why do you like it so much?
Yes, for me, it's capturing a moment. Even when I was younger and, you know, had those throwaway cameras that we would get on road trips, it's like you kind of want, oh, I want, you know, to always remember my mom standing here next to the waterfall, or I always want to remember my brother here laughing at a bug he's smashing. I don't know, one of those things. And just kind of doing that, and then the more intricate way of, oh, well, here's a whole scene. Like when I was traveling Europe, I could take a picture of this, you know, mountain range and think, well, I can look back on this and just relive it in some sense.
And remember how you're feeling and all those emotions attached to it as well.
Exactly. And so just kind of being able to have that ability was something I wanted to do. And then with video, it's, well, I can, like with a music video, it's, well, I can make something look a certain way, relive it, or have somebody watch it and have a certain feeling when they listen to the music and have a visual with that. And that's something I also really enjoy in different aspects.
Totally. Well, I'm a huge fan of storytelling, which is that's sort of what I discovered as I was doing more and more video stuff. I kind of got into it because I thought, oh, this looks cool. I can post some really nice looking shots, and it I don't know, it sort of feeds my ego a bit if I'm posting on Instagram and stuff, but it's very much turned to the whole storytelling element. And that's ultimately why I'm doing this podcast as well, because I get to share the stories of students who I went to college with, who are my best friends that I've ever met. And I had such an amazing time here.
Right.
And so I feel the calling to do my best with all the lights, all the cameras, and just sort of the best of my ability to show that in the best light possible, to draw attention to it, because I believe there's lots of valuable things to share.
Right. And everyone has different experiences. Like I have a different one from you and so on. And just understanding and seeing that from other people is really important. That's kind of where the journalism aspect comes from, is it's basically storytelling. You have to show, everyone's point of view and everyone's experiences in order to understand and really, get out there and understand the world.
And I wanted to pull on that journalism aspect as well. What do you see your dream job as?
Oh, definitely some type of publication. I've thought about writing, and that's always, it's kind of competitive, which is fine. It's just I have to figure out what I want to do with that. And then maybe even editing. I've always loved literature and reading, and I've always thought maybe I could do a job in that. My mom, she used to work at a wholesale book distributor, and so I kind of had access to however many and what types of books I wanted. And so I was always there and reading and just kind of enjoying that. And I thought, well, maybe working for Penguin Random House or HarperCollins would be really cool. So that's essentially what I want to do. Again, it's just a matter of figuring out what I need to do to get there.
Do you know what you need to do to get there?
I'm figuring it out. It's a lot of just experience. You have to gain experience. It's kind of crazy how you could have all of this education, and sometimes for some places it doesn't really mean a whole lot unless you have experience. And so I'm trying to, get out there, get more experience, do all this stuff that can help me, end up in that career path.
Do you think Augie gave you enough experience to bridge that gap into sort of the path after college that you wanted to go down?
I think so. There are definitely certain things that, not all colleges can offer you, especially real life situations. Like on campus, you learn, you go to class, you read, you study, you do all of this. And then you kind of have to go off and take that as a tool and like do all these other things on your own in order to, lay the foundation of your career. They definitely set up like with,
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking, where they set you up, going out and working with other jobs.
So internships.
Yeah, internships. Volunteer work. I remember we had to do volunteer work our freshman year with our seminars. So being able to, get a foot in the door in that aspect is something not all, colleges offer. And so I think that was really what helped. And then again, you have to really take what they give you and then go off on your own and figure it out.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no greater teacher than experience.
Right.
And again, just drawing back to this podcast stuff, because that's all I've been thinking about the last few weeks while I've been in the US. But for example, I've done, I think your episode 16 recording in the US. So I've set up all this gear just about 16 times. But there's little shortcuts that I know now. So it doesn't take me an hour and a half anymore. It takes me closer to an hour. And I can do a better job just because of the experience. And it wasn't like I didn't know the skills before. I theoretically knew what I was trying to accomplish, but it's just that intangible skills that you really just need practice to be able to do.
Exactly. And again, like in like my 8 to 5, it's all right, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. It's like a habit at that point. But then you realize later on that it really helps you with future projects. It prepares you for different things. So experience is one of the
Experience is the greatest teacher. And so, Katelyn,
Yeah.
I want to ask you my favorite question on the podcast. And since we're sitting here at college again, and grades are such a big part of that, so I want to ask you what letter grade you'd give your experience here at Augie.
Oh, well, I mean, a lot of the professors here graded pretty harshly. Like, they were tough graders.
Oh, so you reckon you have to grade it hard as well?
I'm gonna have to grade it hard. I'd say maybe a B plus, a B. Definitely miss a lot of aspects to learning the community. I miss coming to the library and just having that space. I don't think anyone, has the perfect experience in anything, and there's room for improvement, but I definitely would give my experience here a B, B+.
Well, if you're being pretty harsh, B plus seems pretty generous.
Pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. And so, was there anything that sort of takes that down a bit? Did you have any hard moments or difficult times while you were here? Apart from the stuff at the end.
Right. I guess so. I have all the love in the world for my English and journalism professors, but one of them was really tough, especially, so we had, freshman year seminar, our required yearly class, or not yearly, but our year-long class. And I had Sandra Looney as my very first freshman year. And it was one of those things where, you come to Augie, you don't really know what to expect. You have more, individuality and more things to do on your own.
And there's so much that are going. I feel like the classes at that point are only a small bit about what you're worrying about. You're worrying about adjusting to this whole new environment with different people.
It's a different world, and even as a local, it was so different. And got to Sandra's FYS class. I actually remember when we were doing our seminar, we were all sitting in the chapel, like shoulder to shoulder, all the freshmen. And I can't remember who it was, but they said, all right, look to your left, look to your right, and say, I'll see you in 4 years. And then after the first semester of freshman year seminar in Sandra's class, only myself and one other person didn't transfer or drop after that first year.
Really? So you had a big dropout from your FYS class?
Yeah. I think myself and then Austin and maybe one other person, but I think it was just us two. After the first semester of the first year, everyone from that class was gone. Yeah, because I don't know what it was.
That's so unusual. And I would say that, I mean, that's definitely not the norm. And I think that would have been probably the small selection of students who actually do end up transferring as well.
And I think it was just nuts that we were all in the same class and then they were all gone. And I thought, what am I doing here?
You managed to stick it out though.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. We had to rewrite one paper like 30 times before we, turned in the final draft. So I don't know if it was that or what, but it was fun.
You stuck it out.
I did.
And is there anything else in that notebook?
My notes.
All the colored notes. Is there anything else that you wanted to share as well? Or anything else that maybe you thought about while we were just talking?
Well, I guess one crazy thing is another sense of, the community here. I had Ann Peterson as one of my religion professors, and she was just one of my favorites. I absolutely loved being in her class. And I found out, a few months ago, I added her on Facebook. Her husband was my first band teacher, and I had no clue. Yeah, they posted a picture together, and I'm like, Mr. Peterson.
So back when you were probably still in high school, or even middle school, fifth grade.
I was in 5th grade when I started, and he was the 5th grade band teacher. Yeah, and I thought, holy cow, that's still Mr. Peterson. And then I'd call his wife, hey Ann, like, is this paper okay?
That's such a crazy coincidence.
I had no clue. Yeah, and then I don't ask me what their names are, but my mom has friends from her church.
What are their names?
No, I have friends from her church that are professors here, and like I'd see them around. I don't remember their names, but I know their faces. But yeah, it's kind of crazy how that kind of like from being from West Side just kind of trickled into Augie's campus.
Yeah. And then Katelyn, final question to sort of wrap up. Is there any advice that you give to yourself, your younger self who was sort of finishing high school, who was part of the theatre kids in the band and sort of just about to transition into college? Is there any good advice that you'd give through your experience of doing the photography, studying journalism, and now working in the content creation field? Is there anything that you can draw upon your experience to give back to your younger self?
I guess just, work really hard, and where you end up, that work really reflects on who you are and where you end up in life and in your career. All that hard work really pays off.
It seems to be paying off for you. Keep up the great work.
Yeah.
All right, Katelyn, thank you for coming back to college.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you for having me here.